Oh boy, what are we doing today? Well, let me tell you, we are modding a Dreamcast, or we're attempting to mod a Dreamcast. So this is a little different than what I'm normally doing, but I got all the parts to mod my Dreamcast. So that's what we're doing here. We're gonna mod this Dreamcast. So uh, here we go. And apologies, you can hear my dog walking around in the background, and you can hear probably the air conditioning because it's real hot today in Nashville. So I'm not opening the windows, which would be just as noisy anyways. And I'm not turning the air conditioning off because I'll die. So this is a Sega Dreamcast. You probably recognize that, and we've got all the things necessary to make the ultimate Dreamcast. So this is a GDEmu, which is an optical drive emulator. And the big part of the reason that I got this is, one, the market for Dreamcast has just gone crazy lately. More than that, some of my games don't really work the way they're supposed to anymore. I have a copy of Resident Evil. Resident Evil 3 that doesn't play right. I'm sorry about that. It was a test, really, because I hadn't played. I got a copy of Resident Evil 3 for the Dreamcast years ago. I'd never played it, and I was going to check it out on the Dreamcast, and I couldn't because, it didn't work. And it wasn't the Dreamcast that plays other games. It's just that some discs start to rot. They get pinholes in them, and it's no good. So we've got the GDEmu. We have the Pico PSU. This is a power supply that's really made for computers, but people have made adapters, and we'll get to that in a second, so that it can go in the Dreamcast and it doesn't run nearly as hot. This, I don't think I'm actually going to open this on camera, but this is a UL listed AC 100 to 240 volt to direct a US plug for LED strip light, which is the plug that was recommended to me as the one that will work well with this guy, because you're changing out the plug part here. So you can't use your old Dreamcast plug. You have to get one that plugs into there. So that's what this is. I'm going to actually put that aside for now, because that's not going to matter. And then this is a package from Laser Bear Industries, and there's a little package of laser bears in here, and I'm definitely going to eat those later, so we'll also put those aside for now. This is a guy that goes on this thing, and it fits in the back where the power supply went, so you don't have to cut anything, and also then so it doesn't like wobble around in the back of your Dreamcast. This is the fan kit. It's got an adapter cable for the Noctua fan that I also bought from Laser Bear. So this fan is the same as the one that's on my Mister. Same fan. This is a 3D printed shroud and a new latch for this open button. The way the latch is in here, it won't work with this guy. With this shroud in here, it'll bump into it. So there's a 3D printed latch that goes in there to replace the one that's in there, so it doesn't bump against the shroud in the new fan. And this is the adapter for to get the Pico PSU to connect to the Dreamcast board without having to solder. So that's what this is. So what you're going to need is, I have a game bit, but you shouldn't need one for this. But I have it just in case, because I would hate to have to run some other room in the house to finish this. But mostly, I just have a set of like eyeglass repair screwdrivers, I think mostly that's going to work. I have a bigger Phillips head for some of the other screws because I know there's some bigger screws, but that should be all that you need. So the first thing that you're going to have to do is this is the thing where the broadband adapter would go. It's the modem, actually. It's a 56K modem. That has to come off because there's actually a screw under there to open the shell, this screw right here. So if you're trying to open your own Dreamcast and you're like, what's going on? If you didn't take this guy off, that's why. So we'll put that aside. And then thrill as I unscrew some screws live, which I think is why people usually don't do this live the way I'm doing it, because it's real boring to watch someone do a bunch of unscrewing. There's a bunch of you watching this though, so it can't be that boring. And this is not taking the place of the normal Wednesday stream. We'll be around tonight. I don't know if we're doing Genesis or Genesis isn't at 9:30 Eastern Time. But I am going to be playing Bloodstained tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. I'm going to be playing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. And all the guys are going to be hanging out for that. I know Mike said he's going to come. I'm sure Eric will be around. Kurt said he's around this week. So this is not the normal Wednesday stream happening earlier. This is think of it as a bonus stream. And speaking of bonus streams, remember that on Saturday I'm doing 12 hours of Contra to benefit the Trevor Project. Okay, so this is what we got. We're going to take this spring off of this assembly, and then we're going to replace this assembly with the 3D printed part that's in here. But we'll get to that in a minute. We're not going to worry about that now. We're going to set this aside for now. Okay. So, this is the power supply. Big ugly thing, right? This has to come out. And this is the old fan. This has to come out. And this is the optical drive. This has to come out. So, there is a mod that you can do to replace this coin cell battery with a rechargeable one. That requires soldering. I don't have a soldering iron. I'm not good at soldering. Eventually, like someday, I'll either figure it out or I'll have someone do it. But for now, I'm going to be resetting the clock on my Dreamcast every time I turn it on, just like probably most of you do, because that's what happens when you have a Dreamcast at this point in this year of our Lord, Arn Anderson, 2019. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pop this off. Okay, that was easy. And then this guy is screwed down, so we do have to unscrew it to get it out. So there's another mod you can do, apparently, where you can just take one of these capacitors off, and I'm not sure which one it is. I think it's this one, but I do not take that as gospel. But apparently doing that helps a lot, because the reason that we replace this, especially with the GDEmu going in, is that apparently this thing outputs a lot of more power than the GDEmu needs, and it disperses as heat, which is not good for the inside of the system. So we don't want to do that, and that's why we're going to replace it. Did I miss a screw? No. You just got to kind of worry it out of here, I think. Really want to be very careful not to break anything inside the system, obviously. There we go. I can feel it's coming, but you know, again, we don't just want to rip. There we go. And this plastic guy is going to come with it. But you can look, see, and sort of see how this is going to also improve the airflow in the system, right? This is our old power supply. This is our new power supply, right? So that's going to be the difference maker, right? So this guy, we're going to put aside. I probably should recycle it. I don't really foresee ever putting it back in, but I don't think I want to just throw it in the garbage. That doesn't sound like a good idea, so I'll have to look into that. If anybody has any ideas of where to do that, leave a comment or chat something, so I'm watching the chat while I'm doing this. So, all right. So we did that. Those are fan parts. Okay, so here's our new power supply. And it looks like he actually did provide, this kit does include this guy, but I guess I wanted a white one anyways to match the system because I have a white Dreamcast, so it's fine because the one that's included is black, but that was a couple extra bucks that I guess I didn't really need to spend. And of course I didn't grab a scissors, so I very carefully punch a hole in this bag. And then very sloppily rip it open. So again, this is so there's no soldering that needs to be done. So my understanding is that this guy now I'm not sure myself, but it looks like it only really goes on one way, right? So I believe that this guy slots onto there, but let's get the optical drive out first because that looks like it's kind of in the way here anyway, so or that will be in the way once I put it in. So we got 3 screws that keep the optical drive assembly in. There's your Dreamcast optical drive assembly. And this I'm going to save. Again, it's one of those things, I don't know if I'll ever put it back in. But, well, better to keep it, have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? So, the GDEmu is just going to pop on right there. But I'm going to switch the fan before I do that. And let's take a look at this guy. So again, this is the thing where like this is the only direction that it fits on, right? So that must be correct. That kind of... I'm going to double check that. We're going to double check that. Because again, there's a costly... the price for making a mistake is quite costly. So we're going to make sure that this is the right way that this is on. And I know Lee from Pughoof Gaming just did this as well, so I should have asked him to be sure. It doesn't... That does not look... It doesn't look right. Oh wait, here we go. Here we go, here we go. Goes in on the other side. There we go. There we go. Goes like that. Then this guy clips on there, but first this dude has to go in here. Actually, let's do that before we mount it. Okay. Jeez, that would have been bad, right? So these picos are keyed. So they should only go in one way. Yes. There we go. Now we're in business. Now we're cooking with gas, as they used to say. Okay. This guy should also only go on one way. Booyah. Okay. And then we've got our power out. I should have put some music on. But I'm watching the Brewer game. I turned the audio off because I didn't want MLB to like hit me with a copyright strike for my Dreamcast video, but I'm watching the Brewer game here in the background, so... Okay. So what I don't get... Like, it just kind of rests in there, but like, how do I... Alright, so that slides in there. That's a little bit out of the frame. Let me slide it forward. Okay, so that slides in there, but like, how... Like, do I just have to have it plugged in all the time? Maybe I do need that power supply, because I'm not really sure. Like, this is a solid piece. And this is... I mean, that's threaded. Unless it's supposed to... No. It's definitely supposed to go in this way. So it sits in there fine. But it doesn't... Like, it's not secured in any way. But... probably zip tie that in such a way that it's not kind of hanging out all over in there, but I'm not going to worry too much about that right this second. Oh, I'll worry about that in a minute. So let's now do the fan. So the fan is held in by these two small, so this is why we need the eyeglass screwdriver, right? These really small screws that hold in the old fan. I was nervous about using magnetic screwdrivers in electronics, even though I know that that really only matters with hard drives. But I'm still nervous about it. I can't help it. Okay, this is the old fan with the shroud. Look at how small that is. And this thing, I didn't turn it on so you could hear it, but I think we all know how noisy a Dreamcast fan is. It's like second only to the early models of Xbox 360 in terms of like which one sounds more like a Harrier jet taking off. So I'll be glad to be rid of that guy. So this kit also includes an adapter cable. You can't just get this fan and then stick it in. There's an adapter cable that will allow it to connect to this that's included. So here's our fan shroud. That's going to end up right there with those two screws that I unscrewed, and then one more screw that will screw it into, that screws the fan into the shroud. Okay, so this is our new latch. That's going to go in the lid. We'll do that in a second. This is the adapter cable. As I said, this Noctua fan, if you just buy it off of Amazon or off of wherever, it's not going to have the right connection. You need this adapter cable for the Dreamcast. If you don't have it, it ain't going to work. Okay, we got a screw in there. I think that's to screw it into the hood, or the shroud, I should say. Okay, and here's our fan. This only goes one way. These guys, the people who make these are so smart. Everything is keyed. So this can only go in one way. That goes in like that. And then it plugs in here. Again, it's keyed. It only goes in one way, I hope. Right? The label should be facing out of the Dreamcast. That's how you know if it's in the right direction. So the first thing, right, and these little claws, the claws that catch. You wear the Jabberwock, my son. Claws that catch. Okay? So that you know it's in there, okay? So you fit that in there. We'll do it like this. So the cord is in the most direct spot. Okay, so that's what you want to have. So and also, just to reiterate, I showed you the pack of gummy bears, but all the stuff came from Laser Bear, and he came up with some of these models. This Pico PSU is from a dude named Kriz 2600, but Laser Bear fabricates them for him. You can also just, if you're like adept at building circuit boards, you could just download, like, it's an open source deal. But I don't trust myself to do anything like that. If I even had the knowledge base required to try something like that, I wouldn't trust myself to do it. So, just before I screw this in, I want to make sure that the way I have it situated. He's got this nicely coiled around here so that it seems like it kind of reaches, just the right way, but I'm going to undo that because I think, unfortunately, it ain't going to lay the right way if I don't. I think it's not going to fit down in there correctly. Right, okay, so before I do that, I'm going to screw this in. And then, of course, I put the fan on backwards after specifically saying to all of you, make sure the label's facing out. That's the way it's supposed to go. Shit. There we go. And I'll put that right down in there. I think we're going to put that right down in there. Yeah, there we go. Oops. Okay, learning experience. Don't screw the fan onto the hood or the shroud before you've screwed the shroud down, because it will cover one of the screw holes. Now you know. Knowing is half the battle. down. Part of the reason that I'm live streaming this is because, like I said, I don't have a soldering iron. I don't know how to solder. I'm sort of trying to demonstrate that, like, anybody can do these Dreamcast mods. Like, if I can do it, I promise you can do it if I can do it. You know, I'm not Voltar. I'm not. In fact, Voltar is the one who modded my Famicom. You know, I'm not Voltar. I'm not Bob from Retro RGB. I'm not even, you know, Corey from My Life in Gaming, who just posted a video of him swapping out batteries in some of his old games. Like, I don't even think I would trust myself to do that. You know, let alone anything that requires a soldering iron. So make sure that's in there. Looks like it is. I'm just going to kind of lay that right there. Okay. Fans in, power supply is in, which leaves just the GDEmu, and the GDEmu is actually going to be really probably the easiest part, because all it does is slot right in. Where the optical drive was before. That is literally it. So I need a tray. I'd like a tray. For the GDEmu. I don't have a tray yet. But now, speaking of trays, the lid. So like I said, if we put this lid back on, this is going to bump against this, which we don't want. So we have to replace it with this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this spring off. Okay. That is step number one, and we're going to put that aside. We need to keep that, obviously. And then we're going to use our eyeglass screwdriver to unscrew. Ye gods. Those aside. Oh, somebody's walking by, so my dogs are... That's the one. You'll hear the other one probably in a second. It's that time of day where people are getting off of work, or I think if there are classes. I live right near a university. I live right near a couple, actually, because Tennessee, Nashville is full of universities. Okay, so this is the old catch. We don't need this anymore. That's going to go with the power supply, and the old fan is, like, probably never going to need that again, but, you know, who knows. And then we're going to put the new one in its place. So we just put that in like that. That's how the way it goes. And then we're going to do our best to screw it back in. There we go. snug that down, and then we just need to put our spring back on there. You got a functional Dreamcast lid again. Okay, so there, we're done with that, and this cutout is where that's where the fan goes, so this doesn't butt against it. So there we go. That's our lid. Okay, GDEmu's in, fan is in, Pico PSU is in. I'm still a little mystified on this guy here, honestly. But I guess what I'm going to do is plug in the power supply, which I threw over here. Well, that's interesting. I was told this was the power supply to get. It doesn't seem to fit. Oh, well, it kind of fits. I'll slide this in here. I'm starting to wonder if this was... Well, we're going to find out one way or another. I'll have to do some research on that. So maybe disregard what I said at the beginning about which power supply to get. Do some research on that, because this doesn't feel right. But theoretically, that should be it. That should be it. So, yeah. I'm going to put this back together, and then I'm going to try it out, and maybe live stream some Dreamcast games. But that's the process. Like I said, it indicates that you should. I would double check on the power supplies that go with this guy, just to be sure if you do this yourself, because I'm not sure the one I got is right. So, but other than that, that's everything. We now have the ultimate Dreamcast. And one other part of this that I'm not going to show you because it's plugged in, but I use the retrogamingcables.co.uk SCART cable, which takes the VGA signal and puts it out through SCART, and there's a switch for games that don't support VGA, and it works fantastic. Every games look great, and so if I do stream some of that later, you'll see some of that. But that's it. I'm going to put this bad mamma jamma back together and do some research on this power supply, and yeah, that's about it. Thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you tonight at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern for On the Stick After Dark. I'll be playing some Bloodstained.